Hello Rebel and welcome back to my life. I did rearrange my office. Thanks for noticing. Today I have come to proselytize to you, to speak to you the good word about something that I have only recently been converted to, but which has changed my life for the better, and you can too. Today, I want to talk to you about ask culture versus guess culture. And the very first thing I want to clarify is that it is ask culture. Ask with a K. It's not ass culture. That's another thing. So I tried to trace down the origin of this cultural theory, and the first instance of it I can find online is a forum post written in 2007 by someone named Andrea Donderi. The theory says that there are two broad human cultural modes that we can be raised in. In ask culture, it's expected and normal that anyone can ask for anything within reason, and that the asker is perfectly willing to receive a no in response, again, within reason. There are exceptions. It wouldn't be acceptable to ask if you could kill someone. That's not a reasonable request. And if an asker found out their neighbor was pissing on their lawn and asked them to stop, it wouldn't be reasonable for the neighbor to say no in that case. But in general, in the normal course of human events, askers are comfortable asking for anything, and they're equally comfortable hearing no. Guess culture is very different. In guess culture, people generally avoid making direct requests unless they're very nearly certain the answer is already going to be a yes. Guess culture is based on a system of nonverbal cues and unspoken, unwritten agreements between people. Direct requests and direct refusals are both viewed as rude. Guessers rely heavily on constantly evaluating and thinking about other people's responses to guess how they feel and think on any particular subject. And when you're really good at playing the guessing game, you usually end up never having to make a direct request at all. Through a long process of hints and vague suggestions, you might get an offer from the other person instead. That isn't to say that the other person's offer is fake or forced. It can be genuine, but the guesser guided the person to make the offer rather than simply asking for whatever it was they wanted. Now, as you can probably tell already, ask and guess culture can clash pretty heavily, especially when two people from different cultures don't really know that the cultures even exist in the first place. If you're an asker and you're trying to deal with guessers, you can feel out of your depth. There's this sense that there are unspoken rules and things being said without ever being spoken out loud. People react in ways that are strange to you. After all you did was ask them a question. You might receive strange answers that don't totally seem to be related to what you're saying or what you're asking for. You can struggle to get a straight yes or no from a guesser. And the worst part is, you can't just ask about the unspoken rules. It's rarely effective to say, hey, is there something you're not telling me? Is there something I don't know about all this? That just furthers the divide between you. The guesser becomes even more annoyed because they feel like you should already know why they're upset, because another guesser would know. I am an asker, and I have had flat out, all caps arguments with people, begging them, please, just tell me what you want and I will do that thing for you. Just tell me, what do you want me to do? And instead of telling me, they would go on to talk about the situation in an oblique way, talking about what they didn't like, what they weren't enjoying, when the problem started, and so on and so forth, but never simply asking me for the thing they wanted right now. Meanwhile, if you're from guess culture, ask culture can seem incredibly rude. If someone just flat out makes a request, you feel like you're being imposed upon, because guess culture has taught you that it's incredibly rude to say no. After all, in guess culture, you're only supposed to ask if you already think the answer will be a yes. And it's better still if you don't ask at all, but drop enough hints that the other person offers you what you wanted anyway. So why is this rude, loud, annoying person simply walking up and asking for this thing? Now they're forcing you to say no, which is just incredibly painful and makes you seem like you're the rude one. You're not the rude one, they're the one who's breaking the social contract. And even worse, you can be pressured into saying yes to a lot more things than you normally would. You might agree to things that you don't actually want to do, because again, in the culture you're familiar with, if someone's asking the question, that means the answer should be yes. So if you feel like you want to say no, maybe you're the one who missed something. Maybe you missed the clues or dropped the wrong hints and made the other person think you were on board with the idea. So maybe you're beholden to say yes now, or else you're the bad guy. Of course, the truth is that if you're dealing with an asker, you're not the bad guy, even if you say no. No is a perfectly acceptable answer. You just don't know that because it's never been the case for you. There are limitations to both these things. Sometimes someone isn't an asker, they're just an asshole. An asshole, if you will. Woo! For example, A good case of ask culture is one single person asking another single person if they'd go on a date. And if the other person says no, the asker is fine with that. There's no lingering resentment or bad feelings affecting either one of them going forward. But a bad case of ask culture would be making inappropriate sexual advances. Maybe a powerful author demands sexual favors from an up-and-comer and they act resentful when they're told no. Maybe an adult makes sexual requests of a minor. Maybe someone makes sexual demands of a person in a monogamous marriage. That's not ask culture, that's predatory behavior. You're not being direct, you're being a creep and an abuser. Ask culture is meant to be about telling a company, hey, I'd like this job. And then if they say yes, saying, great, happy to be aboard. Or if they say no, saying, well, thanks anyway, I'd love to have a chance to work together in the future. Now for a guesser, applying for that same job can be a huge problem. It can be agony just to submit an application because you're trying to guess exactly what they're looking for and custom tailor it into exactly what they want. And you can subconsciously feel like you're being incredibly rude just by asking them for a job because what if they have to say no? How can you put someone else through such an immensely uncomfortable situation? See, one big problem with guest culture is that it's isolated. You can't move from one guest culture to another and have all of the same understandings translate. Maybe growing up with your family, your mom knew that when you started talking about chocolate, she was supposed to offer to take you to the store to get some, or to pick some up the next time she was out, at any rate. But as an adult, when you're talking to your spouse or partner and you start talking about chocolate, they don't know that signal. They don't know that you're subtly asking them to either go out with you to get some chocolate now, or for them to at least pick up some chocolate next time they get a chance. However, when a guesser moves from one guest culture to another and forms new relationships with new guessers, they do retain the basic guesser skills, such as being able to tell when a signal is being sent, even if they don't know what the signal is exactly. This sets guessers up to more easily and quickly integrate into other guest cultures, while askers are pretty much out of luck across the boards. It can take monumental effort for an asker to fully adapt to guest culture. And when they move to a new group of guessers, they have to start all over again from square one. Now, the thing about guest culture is that it's a great environment for manipulation and abuse. And I want to be very clear here. It's not true that every guest culture is abusive. But guest culture is a major part of many abusive situations. If you're around a manipulative or abusive person, you're usually expected to know what they want without them saying. Now that's true for all guest culture, but in an abusive situation, if you're wrong, you can face heavy penalties or even emotional and physical violence. You can be yelled at, derided, or degraded, or simply hit and punched if you do something the abuser didn't want you to do. Or if you don't do something they did want you to do, even though they never asked you to do it or not to do it. And what's worse, because the rules are never really fully explained, but are supposed to be understood, the abuser can change their rules and their expectations on a whim. And they can then gaslight you about what their expectations are or were. There's no clear record of it. There's nothing written. There wasn't even an explicit verbal explanation. So how could you think they ever wanted A? They only ever wanted B. Isn't it your fault for not knowing that? Isn't it your fault that you swear you remember them wanting A before and being mad at you when you didn't give them A? But no, they only ever wanted B. And if you think anything else, that's your fault. So this is probably pretty obvious by this point, but while there's nothing inherently wrong with either culture, I think it's pretty clear that ask culture is better or at least safer than guest culture. Like everything in all my videos, this is just my opinion, obviously, but I hope I've made a pretty reasonable case for why. Ask culture certainly saves a lot of time. There's no need to wonder or worry about whether someone else is okay with you doing something. You just find out and then you do it. Or you don't do it. It definitely makes things more clear and safer so long as everyone involved remembers that no is an acceptable answer and no is also a complete sentence. Like the great thing about being an asker is that I can ask someone, hey, could I stay at your house for a week? And they can say it flat, no. And then I can be like, okay, would you be able to tell me why not? And they can say, no. And I can be like, well, okay. I mean, I still don't know why, but I do know it's something they don't want to talk about. And if they don't want to talk about it, then I'm not going to talk about it. Problem solved. So if you're watching this video and you immediately spotted yourself as either being from ask culture or guest culture, I hope this may help you better understand some of the ways people interact with you. If you're an asker, keep an eye out for when you're dealing with guessers. It might take you some time to convince the other person that yes, they can say no to your request and you're not going to be angry or punish them or think they're incredibly rude. And you might want to soften your asks. Don't just ask out of the blue, prep them for it. Ease into it a little bit because it can be shocking or even jarring to somebody who's not used to that. And also remember not to be an asshole. Don't ask for things that are unreasonable or a burden on the other person just because you think you can get them to say yes because they're not used to saying no. If you're a guesser and you sometimes feel a little overwhelmed by askers, try to realize that you are allowed to say no. The asker isn't going to be angry, they just want to get straight to the answer so they can move on, rather than beat around the bush guessing at it. And in general, if you are a guesser, I'd encourage you to pick up some of the skills that succeed in ask culture. It's definitely one way to be a lot more productive and get more things done more quickly. And it also gets you out of your own head. You spend less time wondering about other people and what they're thinking or doing because you already know, because you asked them. Really, my own bias aside, there's nothing wrong with being a guesser or an asker. If one is more comfortable than the other, then do that. But whichever one you are, and whichever one the people in your life are, we're all better equipped to deal with ourselves and with each other when we know more about why we act the way we do. And that's all I've got for you today, Rebel. Last week, I released the final episode of my latest Underrealm novel, Hellskin, on my Patreon, and boy, did readers seem to like it. If you want to read my next book months before it's available for sale, click on the Patreon link down there or in the description box below. For just $1 a month, you can get a new episode of Underrealm every Friday. I want to give a special thank you to this month's new patrons, Annalise Moore, Tim Beauchamp, and Susanna Moret. Y'all are awesome, and sorry if I butchered your names. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next Friday. Bye!